Welcome to the 52nd edition of Lifestory, brought to you by the Living Memory Association, based at the Wee Museum of Memory in Edinburgh. In this edition, we are joined by David Flucker at the wonderful age of 101 years old. David takes us back to attending school in Newhaven in the 1920s, and then on a wonderful series of adventures from growing up in a family of fishermen, emigrating to Australia, living in South Africa at the height of apartheid and standing up to racism, being shot down over Egypt during the war, to finally retiring for a second time at 95 years old, before going on to volunteer at the St Columba's Hospice shop in Ocean Terminal, Leith. David has quite simply never stopped. Back in time we go. David, a very warm welcome to Lifestory. Firstly, if you don't mind revealing your age, can you tell me how old you are, where you were born, and what year you were born in, please?
Yes, well, I was born on 22nd of June 1922 in Newhaven, Main Street. I was born there, and we were there for a long time. Now I believe that my old house has been knocked down and some new buildings have been put up, but that was where we started off. And of course I went to school in Newhaven, the old school, and then of course the war came along, and we were all fishermen. My father was a fisherman, my grandfather was a fisherman, and I believe before that they were all fishermen. In fact, I think we all came from Sweden at one time.
And what would they be fishing for in those days, David? Was it quite a wide range of fish? Or
herring, sprats, cod, anything. It was, and in those days the fish was plentiful. In fact, if you went along to the head of the pier and looked down, the water was silver. There was so much fish to see. In fact, the schoolboys used to come down there with a rod with 4 hooks tied together, which they called a murderer, and they just dropped us into the silver, pulled it up, and every time they got fish on the hooks. There was no time that you missed. Anyway, that was it. And as I say, the war came along and there was nothing to do. We had no trade, just fishing people. So my wife and I, we decided to go abroad. Most of them went to Canada, to the Dogger Banks there. We went to Australia. Strangely enough, that was one of the best things I ever did in my life, because my wife, she got a job there before me. In fact, it was in a printing shop. She spoke one time to her boss about me, and her boss said, well, ask him to come along and we'll have a little talk, see what we can do. So I went along to see him, and he says, how would you like to come here and work? I said, I think I'd love it very well. So it was a printing shop, and I was there. I loved the work so much, I got so used to it. I was there about a year, I would say. And one day the boss came to me and he said, how would you like to go down to the university in Melbourne? Oh, I said, God, yes, that would be wonderful. So that was a turning point in my life.
Whereabouts in Australia were you staying, sorry?
Melbourne.
Near Melbourne, was that
Melbourne.
Right? Okay.
And that was it. So.
And how was that trip across in the boat?
Oh, the trip across in the boat was okay. It was okay. No, another story there, another way. But no, it was okay. And that was it.
And how long did it take in those days, David? To get from Scotland to Australia in the boat?
Oh, no, I can't remember now. It was very long. Actually, we flew out.
You flew out, did you?
In
those days, right?
Something happened where there was a chance of taking so many people out in planes, but they weren't the kind of planes you see now. They were, you know, pretty wooden seats.
Yeah. Oh, how wonderful. So that must have been the first time you'd ever been on a plane.
That was the first time ever.
And I don't suppose very many people at all would have been on planes at that point.
In fact, it was the first time I'd ever seen a plane, you know. And anyway, from there on, I learned to train. I loved it. Mm-hmm. And I got to know it very well. Actually, I recognised as a member of the printing trade. So we were there for about 3 years. And the firm that I was working from there, they had connections in South Africa. I got the chance to go to South Africa. We decided to take the offer and go to South Africa. from Australia. But it was a wrong move. It was the time when all the trouble was off in Africa. Anyway, we settled down, got a job, got a house. It was okay, but the troubles got worse and worse in South Africa. It was a terrible waste. It was not a place where you wanted to live, really, at that time.
Yeah. Whereabouts in South Africa? Where are you?
Well, we started off in Cape Town, and the factory we went to was in a place called, what was it? Anyway, we were settled down there. But the trouble was very bad.
Yeah. And was that rioting, or was it fires in the streets?
Oh, that was terrible. It was right. I'll give you a little incident now that my boss, he didn't like the black people or the coloured people. He had no time for them, but he employed them. And there was, I think the first week I was there was a little park near the factory. So I went to the park there and had the sandwich. And I saw that there was 2 or 3 lads sitting on the bench, and I knew that they were worked in the factory. So I went over and sat beside them, and we could there. Anyway, when we went back to the factory, I was told to go and see the boss. He wanted to see me. So I went up there, and he told me that as long as you're working here, you will have nothing to do with the coloured people.
Oh, that's shocking, isn't it?
I said, I beg your pardon, what coloured people? He says, you were seen in the park. I says, I didn't know there were coloured people. These were what they called Afrikaners, you know. I says, well, I didn't know. I says, anyway, if I didn't know, I would have still sat beside them.
Oh, good for you.
And he said to me, oh, so that's your attitude, is it? I said, yes. I says, I've no trouble with coloured people. I said, they're just the same as us, they're just a different colour. He wasn't very happy about it. He says, well, we'll see what happens. So I went back to work, and the work carried on again. And this day, my wife and I went down to the station to get a train. No, a bus, I'm sorry, a bus. And, of course, the buses there were segregated, you know, the blacks and the whites. So when the bus was packed, and we stopped at the stop, and this black couple got on, and she was very much expecting. So I got up to give her my seat, but she was very reluctant to take the seat because it was a white man's seat. Anyway, we got her eventually to sit down, and the next 2 or 3 stops, we had to get off. And as I was passing this group of African, this chap came up to me and he did this to me. He says, you're on the list.
David was miming a gun there,
yes, yeah,
for people
yeah.
listening at home. That's just atrocious, isn't it?
Yes,
and it's so wonderful that you stood up against that when you were there, you know, particularly when your boss was speaking to you, because you could easily have just said, okay, to keep your job. And, you know, really, it's fantastic that you were standing up for what is right, really, you know. But what an awful place at that time.
It was terrible. And I mean, our kids, the black kids used to throw stones at them, you know, and things like this. So it got so bad. We were there for 3 years, actually, and it got worse and worse. And we decided that's enough, we're going home. So that was it. So we got home. So we went down to the bank to pick up what money we had in the bank. I had to pay them to get my money out. You know, and some of the furniture we had, what we bought there, went down and told the man, and he says, yes, I'll come up and see it. And he says, right, oh yes, that's all you've got, yes. He says, well, I'll give you 10 rand for the lot, 10 shillings. Seemingly he was doing this with everybody. So that was
I suppose because people were so desperate to get out, weren't they?
Yeah. So we got a boat coming home, and it was funny enough, the captain of the ship, he was retiring, and the ship was going to the break-up yard, you know. Anyway, it was okay until we got to the Bay of Biscay, which is famous for storms. And it did have a storm, a bad one. And my wife spent 3 days down below. She wasn't well at all. And it was so bad, there were 3 lifeboats were damaged with the storm. Anyway, eventually we got home, and that was it. So lucky enough, I got a job in a printing shop back in Edinburgh, and they recognised me as a tradesman. Okay, right enough. So that was it. So I spent the rest of my time until I was 72, and I retired at 72, right? And I wasn't long retired, and the boss says to me one day, he said, how would you like to come back again and work? I said, well, what am I supposed to do? Oh, he says, well, I'll tell you when you come back. But it was a man that was, he had a boat, a pleasure boat, and he was daft on boats, and he was interested in this firm. He decided boat. So that was the reason that he employed me, because he knew that I knew boats, I knew engines and all that, So I went back there, and I worked there for a while, and I spent a lot of time with him. And he also printed in the shop leaflets that went to the Scottish Heritage. All these leaflets went to all the castles round about Scotland. So that was part of my job as well, to deliver these leaflets to the castles. So that was it. So I always remember one day I was way up north. I was going to this castle, and I had no idea where it was. And there was a chap walking along the road, and I stopped and asked him where this was. He says, oh, it's not far. It's just up the road a few miles. And anyway, we drove on, and a few miles turned into an awful lot more than 2 miles, which I believe that they're used to walking up there. Anyway, we got there eventually, and had quite a few boxes of leaflets still there. So this chap came out, and he says, if you hang on a minute, I'll get someone to help you in with the log. So when this man came out, and okay, he says, well, I know where it all goes, so I helped him, and he helped me. And we got him in, and he said, cheerio. I said, thank you. So the first chap came back out again, and he says, how did you get on with him? I said, fine. He says, that was a duke. So that's where I spent my time, just delivering and helping him on his boat in there.
Did you have a company car to drive about? How would you get around?
Oh, yes. So that was it. So then I packed in,
So when was your second retirement then, David?
Oh, well, I worked on to about, 4 years ago. And I joined this people because I took ill, and I took cancer. And I was in St. Columba's Hospital. And they did a good job on me. So I thought when I came out, I'm going to be a volunteer just to kind of repay them for what they did for me,
That's tremendous.
So that's what I'm doing now.
And for a long time, as I first encountered you, you were sitting with that wonderful train set in the window that you built. Where did your passion for building model train sets?
Well, actually, my passion was building ships, model ships.
Right.
But there was somebody one day told me, why don't you go into a model railway? So I said, okay, so that was it. I've built 5 since then, and they've all been sold here.
Yeah, for funds for St. Columba's Hospice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, so, but the last one I built, it wasn't so successful because, this place got quieter and quieter.
Yes. Yeah.
And people weren't carrying money about, We lost a lot of money, really.
Yeah.
We didn't get what we thought we would get. So, so that was it. So here we are now.
Yeah. And when you were building the model ships, were you just building actual models to look at, or were they like seaworthy? Would they go on?
No, they were all just models for show.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and I think about 20 when they all went round the family.
Yeah.
And then actually I was thinking about going back to building a boat, and then this thing came up about, it was Jules actually that kind of said, what about? And then she spoke to the person here who it was.
Heather, yeah.
Yes. And I didn't know about it, but they decided that, ask me to build another
one more project, David.
Another project. So that's what happened. So
yeah. That's great. Well, we'll be honoured that you're building us something in the Wee Museum of Memory.
Yeah.
I'd like to go back to, we've done from the middle part of your life to up to the present day almost, but I'd like to go right back to your primary school. What was the name of your primary school?
Newhaven.
Newhaven. And do you have many memories of primary school?
Well, the memories of the school, I don't know. I think my favourite subject was metalwork and woodwork. I liked that, I always remember when we were still at the school there, my pal, his family was also fishermen too. I remember this day that we had just spent the afternoon studying algebra and different things, and my pal says to me, "This is a lot of waste of time, this." He says, "Because when we leave school, we'll be fishermen, you know." Anyway, that was it. So that was it.
And so did you leave school at 14 then, David?
Yeah, 14, yeah. But
so were you at Newhaven right
yes.
through then?
Yeah, well, my first job I got was, while I was still in school, I worked in the butcher shop there, you know, Tommy Lisson's butcher shop in the main street.
What were you doing in the butchers? What was your role?
My job was, you know, these big hooks that used to hang the meat on, you know. That job there was, we had emery paper, and we used to polish these hooks, you know, until they were shining. And the other job was that they had a bench where they chopped all the big bones and things like that. And my job was we had a wire brush, and we had to scrub this wood with a wire brush to get rid of all the blood and different things, you know. But we didn't get money. You got what they called a paw, and you got some meat in it and sausages and things like that. And that was just, that was good. But I always remember one Christmas time, they had ordered turkeys from this farm, and they had a big wooden box wire net, and there was 8 turkeys in this box. So somehow or other, the wire netting was pulled back, and the turkeys got out. And there was a hunt in Newhaven. I think every person in Newhaven was chasing turkeys. Eventually, he got 2 turkeys back. So that a lot of Newhaven people had wonderful Christmas dinners, you know.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And in your younger days, when you and your pals were out playing in the street, were you a footballer, or what sort of games would you play in the street?
Oh, yes, we were footballers, yes. Right. In fact, I finished, I was playing junior football for Newhaven. Oh, yeah. Really? Wow. My father was a football player. He played for Leith Athletic, and they played for 2 or 3 teams in Edinburgh. In fact, he's got a Scottish badge for football. But I enjoyed football.
So he was an internationalist, was he?
Yes, yeah. Oh. And
what was his name?
Combe. That's another Norwegian name. Yeah. Combe, they called it. I don't know if you know Wardy School. Mm-hmm. Well, they allowed us to use that pitch as our home park, and which was very good. And my father ran the team, and if any player didn't turn up, my father goes on a bike down to Newhaven to try and find somebody to come on. If he didn't find anybody, he played. You know, it was good. So that was it.
What position were you playing in those days, David?
Right half, they called it. Right. Now they call it a defence.
So you played football at Newhaven Primary, and then did you join a club? Was that a junior club you...
Yes. Well, after Newhaven, we left school there at 12, and we went to David Kilpatrick's school. Yeah, in Leith. That's where we left from till we were 14. Yeah. You know.
And do you have happy memories of David Kilpatrick's?
Not really much. No, I can't. Nothing I'd want to remember. Anyway, and then after that, it was a case of going on the boats. That was it. There's nothing else.
Taking you back to the time you spent with your mum and dad as a kid, do you remember day trips, or were there many family trips in those days?
No.
So there's no holidays, down the coast?
Well, I'm wrong there, because now this is connected to another story now, that my mother was Irish and Granny was Irish, so my granny used to come home over here, you know, and she was very Irish. She was a very heavy brogue, you know. Anyway, that's another story. But my mother, actually, she came from Ireland, and she was a governess. Right. And the first job she got was in Culzean Castle in here, and then she came over here. She came up to see us twice, you know. She had friends in a place called Mellington in Ayrshire, so over different things, we got to know them as well, you know. So we spent a holiday in Mellington with these people that were miners, you know. And that was the first holiday we ever had, you know. And it was very good there. That was it, but we never had another holiday after that.
Do you remember, how did you pass the time on your holiday with the miners? Can you remember? Was it More football, or was it fishing? Or?
Well, actually, I did play 1 or 2 games of football, but the miners had a little cottage, and in the front of the cottage is a wee square big garden. So my sister and I decided to build a rocker in the garden, you know. So we did that, you know. That was it. But I'm afraid that one of the men, Sandy, he died suddenly, you know, and that kind of stopped things, you know. That was it, but that was the only time. But
and how old was your sister? Were you close in ages with your sister, or?
My sister was 2 years older than me, and she went to Australia.
Right. What was her name?
Anna Maria, and we decided to go to Australia.
Yeah.
You know, and we stayed with my sister for a while till we got our own place, you know. That was it. Yeah.
And did your sister remain in Australia then?
She died there, actually.
No.
She died there about 4 years ago.
Oh, so she lived to a good age as well?
Yes.
Sorry to hear. That must be difficult, having had your sister for so long and then...
No. But that was that. But
did you get out to see her again much, your sister?
No,
in Australia?
No. To be honest with you, we never heard, actually, when she died, from the people. You know, it was a while after it that
that's a shame.
It was terrible. And anyway, that was.
So how would you stay in touch over the years? Would it be writing letters or back and forth or phone calls? Or?
Yes, well, there was another part of the family that lived away up north in Queensland, and we wrote to them a few times, and then he stopped writing for some reason. I don't know. That was it, but that was the end of their connection with Australia.
Yeah.
You know, until we went to South Africa, you know.
Yeah. I've just got a couple more questions for you, David. Thank you so much for your time so far. I'd like to really try and use your over 100 years of experience on Earth, really. In the changes that you've seen in the time you've been around, what would you say are the changes for the good and what's gone downhill, do you think?
Well, there's been a lot of good things that happened in that time, but I think there's a lot of bad things too, political, you know. My father, he was a Labour councillor for Leith, when Leith was separated, you know. You know. Oh, no, that was another I'm sorry.
No, we can jump around. No, it's fine. Yeah.
And Newhaven was governed by the Fishermen's Society, not by the Edinburgh Town Council.
Right.
And it was a good thing, because if things were bad and the fishermen were very good, you paid in so much when your fishing was good to the society. And if things were bad, they paid you back, you know.
Yeah.
Well, that was a good thing. But politically, we didn't know anything about the town council politics. We just lived by the Fishermen's Society, which was a good thing. And that was it, so...
We used to have a plaque on our wall, which we still have, which will go up again in the wee museum, of the Leith and Edinburgh boundary, and it used to have a bit of information on it on, you know, the people of Leith voted to stay separate from Edinburgh, but they were subsumed into Edinburgh. I mean, was there a big uproar at the time?
Yes, there was always a jealousy between Edinburgh and Leith and Newhaven, because Leith and Newhaven, when the fishing trade was on, it was a busy place, you know. And Edinburgh was jealous about the amount of industry that was in Leith and Newhaven.
Yeah.
They would have that. And they tried very hard to stop it, you know. Anyway, eventually it did happen, you know. It was, but we still believe that it was better the old way, you know.
Edinburgh just wanted the money from the docks and all that industry, didn't they? One of the things that still puzzles me, that I was trying to speak to one of our previous guests on a podcast about, is the fact that there was a vote. So, and Leith people voted massively to remain separate from Edinburgh, but then it happened anyway, the merger. You know, I was just wasn't sure why they bothered with the vote if it was going to happen anyway. You know, I couldn't.
I don't know. I think it was a lot to do with work, because a lot of people were putting money into Leith. And to factories and things like that. And I think that changed the people's thoughts. Well, you know, they're employing us.
Yeah.
In the world.
And nipping back to so you see, you didn't retire till you were about 95, David, is that right?
Yeah.
Sort of 4 or 5 years ago. That must have been a huge step after working. Well, obviously you retired the first time and went back.
Yeah.
But I mean, how did you spend your free time when you finally retired after all those years?
Well, as I said, I used to do bits of modelling, you know.
Yeah.
I love my garden and things like that, you know. I kept occupied because
Yeah.
I'm not one of these persons who sits down when they're retired, you know. Yeah, because I remember one time I got invited to this social club. It was for older people. I went in, and this lady came along and she introduced me to this table where there was a few men sitting round, and three of the men were sleeping. I thought, oh my God, no way.
Not ready for that
No,
yet.
no, Reggie, no, thank you. So that was it. So,
And I think you've answered this question a wee bit there, David, because I think socialisation is hugely important for staying young at heart. You know, the chatting, talking to people of all ages is really important, I think, and you would get that in the St Columba's Hospice next door. But are there any other secrets to your longevity, do you think?
No, it's just a case of keeping your mind active and keeping your hands active. I think that's what's kept me going.
Yeah, so use it or lose it.
I never thought of, you know, oh, that's it, you're too old.
Yeah.
I never gave that a thought.
Yeah.
I just worked on, you know,
Yeah.
did what I wanted to do, you know. I'd seen too many people just packing in, you know.
I know a few people in their 70s and 80s who seem older than you, David, you're
yeah,
doing
yeah.
well.
No, I just kept going.
And do you have any hopes and dreams left? Things that you haven't done or that you haven't fulfilled? Is there
Well, I'd
anything
like to
else?
keep going with this,
Yeah.
you know, going with this. And it's been a big help to me because I live on the outskirts of Corstorphine.
Yeah.
And before, I had to have 2 buses to come here. But now we've got the tram.
Oh, yes, it's just
And
one.
the tram takes me more or less from my house to here,
Yeah,
which is
fantastic.
no trouble.
Yeah,
You know,
brilliant.
it's like having a taxi, you know.
So how often are you in volunteering at St. Columba's?
Well, at the moment, things are kind of quiet, so I do 3 days.
Yeah.
3 days a week, you know. I'd like to do more. I mean, I'd do a lot if I could,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But that's it. But I enjoy it. It.
Well, you're welcome to come into the wee museum and volunteer here as well if you like.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
You'd be a
very
fantastic addition to our staff. But it's been lovely to speak to you today. I think I would a couple of final questions for you. Do you have any regrets?
Well, the older regret was going to South Africa.
Okay.
That was one.
Yeah.
And the way they treated the coloured people, I think that was terrible. I mean, they treated them like animals.
And did you not have any kind of idea of how bad it was going to be when you went from Australia to South Africa then? That was just, it was all new to you, was it, altogether?
No, never.
But were you aware of the apartheid system though?
No.
You know, you weren't really, no? So
No,
I suppose there's
no.
no...
Oh, I think if we'd heard there was trouble,
Yeah,
it wouldn't have taken the family,
yeah.
you know. It was just, no.
And was it a big relief to escape from there in the end?
Pardon?
Big relief to come home out of that environment?
Oh, yes, yeah. But of course now, it's... there's as many coloured people here now as there is white people.
Yeah, which is fantastic.
Yeah, I know. And they're nice people. And that's helpful people. I know that when I go onto the tram in the morning, it's amazing the people that stand up and say, come on, here's a seat, you know.
Yeah.
And that's not just white people, it's everybody.
We're all Jock Thompson's
it's,
bairns, David.
Yeah, no, that's true. Oh, my father was a great Burns man. He was in the Masonic, you know. He was a man for all that, you know. And I thought it would have been a wonderful thing if that had started in South Africa,
Yeah.
you know.
What are your memories of your father?
My father, he was a good man. He was a good sportsman. He was a good worker. He was a good seaman. You know, he was, knew this. They used to say he knew every rock in the Firth of Forth, you know. My grandfather, he was a good man. And my grandfather finished up. As I say, we all had to get different jobs. And he got a job in Leith Docks as bringing boats into the docks.
A ship's captain?
Yeah.
Not a captain, that's not
No,
the
they used to bring the boats in. He piloted it.
Pilot, that's the word I'm looking for, yes. Harbour pilot.
He was a pilot there, Yeah. He was like that until he backed in.
And your memories of your mum? Let's finish with memories of your mum.
My mum was Irish, and Anna Maria, but her name sounds Catholic, but she wasn't. No, it was different. Anna Maria, but it's a nice name, Anna Maria.
Yeah, it's a lovely name.
And as I say, she eventually went to Switzerland, and she got a job there in Switzerland. And she was there a long time.
What was she working as, David?
She was she looked after children, She was a governess.
Yes, right. Yeah.
And she was there for a while. She worked for an Englishman, and she worked for a German. I just said I liked the German best. He was a real gentleman, Anyway.
Yeah.
And anyway, she learned French. She went to school when she had time.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, he taught her as well,
Mm-hmm.
And when she did come back here, she married my dad.
Do you remember how they met, your mum and dad?
I think they met in the shops in Newhaven because she got when you go up the cut from Mason's the Baker?
Yes, I know where
you go up there.
Yeah.
The big house is on the right.
Mm-hmm.
That's where she worked.
Right.
So she must have met my dad when she came down, maybe shopping.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Mm.
And then that was it.
I like to get a wee glimpse into the cuisines of the past. Do you remember what your mum used to make you when you were growing up? Were there any favourite meals? What would she cook?
Our favourite meal, I'd say, was stovers. Of course, fish. We had a lot of fish,
Yeah.
Stovers and tripe.
Yes.
Tripe.
It's always mentioned, the tripe.
Tripe. Yeah, there was a little shop down in Kirky. They sold tripe, and there was always a queue there to get the tripe. But my granny, she was very Irish,
Where did they come from in Ireland, your family?
County Tyrone, a place called Coal Island, It's on the borders. You used to say that put one foot in Southern Ireland, the other foot in Northern Ireland,
And have you travelled to Ireland much over your life?
No, I never went to Ireland.
So there's no kind of seat of the family that you would go and visit?
No. My grandson, he was an open boy for going into your family's history, but I couldn't get very far with that, But as far as I could get was that my granny's husband worked in some courtyard, but we didn't know what he did. He could have been a lawyer or just anything, but that's as far as they got.
And we haven't spoken about your children, David.
Well, actually, I married Mary. She died 13 years ago.
Yeah.
She was a florist. She worked for Rankins.
Oh, right, yeah.
That's where I met her, in the shop, actually.
Which one? Because I was brought up in Portobello, and there was a
Rankins. The one in the West End.
The one in the West End.
West End, yes. I met her there one day, buying flowers. And
can you remember what you said to impress her, David?
Actually, it was a funny thing because I was buying flowers for another woman. Nothing serious.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't a gaze or anything, but she liked flowers and buying flowers. And I told her this. Anyway, we decided to maybe see each other again sometime. So it was a wee while after that I met her.
Yeah.
So things evolved. And
can you remember where the first date would have been? The first time you went out together as a couple?
The first time was the Eldorado bedroom.
Yes, the ballroom. Eldorado, yeah.
Eldorado, I met her there because she was a dancer.
Oh, right.
She loved dancing. So, in fact, she taught me how to dance, I remember one time she had planned to go to Blackpool balls. They were having competitions in Blackpool. So we went down there and she taught me okay. I was not bad, And when we got there, and there was a chap came in on his own. He was a dancer, And Mary spoke to him about that. And I'm thinking, he's a good dancer, he must be. So I said to Mary, why don't you two join together? So they did. They won second prize.
Excellent. And the competitions in those days, would they like tap couples on the shoulder to leave the floor, or how would they just judge them all, or
they judged them after the dance was finished.
Yeah.
You know.
I think the tap on the shoulder is maybe an American thing that I've seen in films.
And I always remember the dance or the floor. There was an organ came up through the floor.
Yeah.
You know that's.
Is this at the El Dorado?
Yes, it was lovely.
And it kind of, we've got pictures of it. It sort of spun round, didn't it?
Yes,
so you could have a band.
Yeah. Blackpool Pool.
Yeah.
That was good. That was it. And we went dancing often, you know.
Do you remember any of the bands you would have seen at the El Dorado?
My memory sometimes lets me down.
You've done well. It's pretty good, David. You didn't ever see Shorty Hopkins, did you?
Albertino
Albertino
and his band, yes, they were there. And it was good. I reckon it was one of the best dance halls in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Because the floor was
sprung
a bit.
Yes.
It was good. So we just danced away until we stopped. You know, we still had a wee dance, you know. Yeah.
It's a good metaphor for life, that, David. You just dance away until you stop.
That's right.
My final question for you. Your proudest achievements in life? What do you look back on most fondly out of all the things you've done?
Well, I don't know if you could go achievement because beginning of the war I joined the RAF. I became a crew member. I was a wildest operator gunner, and we flew in Blenheims. The first place we went to after all the training, we went out to South Africa, to North Africa, out there, and we got shot down there in the desert, and we managed to get away from that before we were carrying bombs and high-octane fuel, so normally they went on fire, but we got out and it didn't go on fire, So
did the plane crash and then you got, or did you parachute out? Or?
No, the plane crashed. The pilot decided to, he asked us, you know, so try and land, you know.
Yeah.
So the undercarriage wasn't working, so we landed there. And when he landed, of course, there was a wee bit of sandstorm blowing, and you couldn't see the sand dunes. And he hit the sand dune and it turned over, and it was a job getting out. I've still got the scars to prove it, you know.
Because was the plane on fire, I think?
Did it go on fire?
It didn't go on fire.
No, but I mean, 2 or 3 days after that, you would never even see it because the Arab hordes used to go round and they used to strip any planes that come down, and that was it. But after that, we had finished our time there.
Can I just ask that after that crash, so you're obviously hoping to get picked up by the Allied forces. So what was after getting out of the plane? Was it just you got the compass out and then started walking, or how did you?
Well, actually, before we went down, I got word through to base. I was lucky that way.
So they knew you were going down.
And it was the second day that they picked us up.
Right.
You know, and we got home, and then we finished there until the war stopped in North Africa. Well, it stopped enough to send some, so we were sent out to Burma. That's where we finished our time.
Thank you so much for your time, David. It's been brilliant. And we'll maybe get you in again sometime for a further chat.
I've never spoke much about that, or even my wartime, because people never wanted to talk about wartime.
Yeah, well, we've had some people in talking about their war experiences, but some people just don't want to revisit that at all. Are they? I mean, it obviously builds a huge amount of character, you know, being in that kind of combat. But how do you look back on that actual time? Was it just something that you needed to do, you know?
It's something you do. I always remember it was very scary. There were a few times that when you went in what we used to call the bus trips, that's when you had a job. You were dead scared. I mean, you were really dead scared, but...
Were you conscripted or did you volunteer?
No, I volunteered. After a while, you can, I wouldn't say get used to it, but you change your whole attitude. You know, you change completely. It was a case of when you had to do anything, it was excuse the word I'm going to use, but it says, come on, you bastards.
Yeah.
That was your attitude, you know.
And
that wasn't me.
Yeah.
You know, that was me. It's just...
but you just had to be like that to survive it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you again so much for sharing your experiences of life with us, and we very much look forward to seeing what you build for us, train-wise.
I have to say, I'm not very well just now for building it, but my nephew, he's going to come in and do the joinery work on the base, because that's the hardest thing, making the base.
Yeah.
And you were talking about Arthur Seat and the pier, but
too tricky.
I can't see that going in. I mean, I could make them, but you see, you want 2 railways. With the railway, we'll have to buy a set first, which gives you an oval.
Yeah.
And an oval goes almost to the 4 feet that way and the 6 feet that way. So you haven't got an awful lot of room to do that. So I think, what we'll have to do is get a train set, start off with that, that's the main way. And you get a track, you know. Now, my idea is to have the old-fashioned train and then a modern train, you know, and just build round it.
Yeah, that sounds good, yeah. And I think, this is a discussion for another time, but I'm looking forward to, we've got a chap who comes in who's got a load of old track as well. It's just been in his garage, so I was going to get him to bring it in, and you can have a look at it and see if it's going to be any use for the project, because I think he's got a lot of stuff, I think.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah, so we'll have a look at that. But I'm very excited to see what you produce. But thank you so much again for joining us on Lifestory.
It's okay, son. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much to David for sharing his wonderful memories with us. For further stories and reminiscence, you can follow us on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram or X simply by searching for the Living Memory Association. We hope to see you soon at the Wee Museum of Memory in Ocean Terminal, Leith, and until next time, we bid you farewell.